Hey everyone, good morning. Welcome to the Daily Drop-In Morning Show with the Teach Better team, where we are live every single morning, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern. We are currently streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. Or if you're listening right now on the Teach Better Talk podcast after the fact, we appreciate you. We're thrilled that you are all here incorporating Daily Drop-In into your day. We have a whole slew of information for you today, a brand new guest, and it's Wednesday, so you know that we get to do a special segment with recommendations that we love. So go fill up your coffee, and we'll be right back. Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday, April 6th. We have Adam here live with us. Adam is a huge member of our Teach Better community in our admin mastermind. But Adam, I think this is the first time that I've ever gotten to formally interview you.
Yeah, I think so. You and I have been talking, I don't know, maybe just since January or so, I would say, since I started jumping in on mastermind on Tuesday mornings, because that kind of fits my schedule. But yeah, I feel like we've kind of talked informally a lot, and now we're kind of talking more formally, which is wonderful.
I love it. I will warn you, Daily Drop-In is absolutely not formal. So definitely
Yes.
we don't have to stay too kosher here on the show. We definitely can get people started for their morning in a little informal fashion. But yes, no, I love it. I was so excited to kind of bring you into this new element of our Teach Better community, because I know that you've chosen to be such a wonderful addition to our admin mastermind that happens on Tuesdays. If you're listening now and you want to learn more about our mastermind, if you're a leader, a principal, an assistant principal, a director, a superintendent, that could be a really good fit for you in terms of a community element within the Teach Better family. You can learn all about that at teachbetter.com/mastermind. But Adam, it's been so wonderful to be able to get to know you there. And I appreciate you waking up bright and early as you're getting your morning coffee and you to join the show.
Yeah, it's been really nice. So if I could speak to Mastermind just for a minute, how this is my first year as an AP. I spent 12 years as a teacher and instructional coach, and first year in an AP has been super fun and super challenging. And the Mastermind group has really been helpful to me to get ideas, to bounce my problems of practice, as we say, like off of other people, and gather some resources and hear other opinions on how other people do things. And it's been wonderful to have a sounding board, but then also I can just kind of sit in and listen sometimes if I've got stuff going in the morning to what other people are dealing with and thinking about. And that's been great for me.
It's always interesting to see how people enter into our community. I know that everybody has their own story about how they connected with Teach Better or how they choose to participate in Teach Better. I always joke that there's 100 different ways to get involved. And depending on the month, depending on the year, depending on what your role is, you might pick and choose different ways to be active in the Teach Better family. How did you hear about Mastermind? Do you remember?
I don't. I think I just saw it on Twitter, honestly, that I knew Brian Zwemke, who runs the morning one, from a couple. We worked in the same district. I interviewed with him last year, so I think that's how it popped up. But it's really been great, and I know we kind of have an Illinois group that shows up there in the morning, but we're getting people from all over. We're getting New Jersey, New York, North Carolina. There's people from all over the place who are joining in on that. So to hear not just kind of a local perspective, but a national perspective has been great. But yeah, I think I just came across it on Twitter, and now it's just like how I start Tuesdays as much as I can, which is great.
No, I love it. It's so interesting how the different groups on Tuesday kind of form based on time and availability. For those of you who have not been active in Mastermind, there's actually 2 sessions to choose from on Tuesdays. You can be active in the morning or in the afternoon. And it's so funny. Our morning crew is very much like Midwest US state based, whereas our evening session is very much not in the US active. Really? And it's more like international. We have Australia and Guatemala and all these other communities. So it's so interesting. It's almost 2 different like completely different conversations every single week, which is kind of fun. But.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe I'll try to make an afternoon session. Just
right.
You
Just to try it out, right?
See what it's like. Yes.
That's kind of the nice part, though, for those of you who are listening or just need this reminder. The mastermind is definitely something that you can just kind of like freely pop into as you have the time. So if you, like I said, if you're a leader, if you're a leader in the education system, you can go register and then not come for 6 weeks and then begin popping in. So it's kind of nice to be a part of that.
Yeah. Or even just listen, right? Like just turn on your Zoom and have it going and listen to what people are saying, right? Like I've definitely had to do that. Sometimes there's other days like yesterday where I was like, honestly posed like the first question because like I was really struggling with something. That's been great. And what I love so much about it is it's just whatever I need when I need it. There are days where, I'm trying to figure out sub coverage in buses and all the things that are happening, at 7:15 in the morning, before students show up. And then there are other days where I can really sit and listen and take notes and dig in ways that I might not be able to, other days.
Yeah, I know that we've talked about Mastermind a bunch so far, but just to pick your brain further, it really is an open space to be able to pose questions and brainstorm. What has that experience been like for you going to essentially a group that you've only met in a virtual capacity and brainstorming and, trying to gather resources to be successful? Have you found that to be helpful? Did you find it strange at the beginning? Tell me a little about that.
Yeah. So it is a little bit strange, right? Because if we're posing a problem of practice, right? Or here's an issue I'm dealing with at school and I don't know how to handle it. There are some times where like, man, you don't know the story or you don't know the context or you don't know like this teacher's personality. But the reality is that they probably do know a person just like that, or they have had a situation just like that. Right. And the kind of the fact that those people are removed from the situation has been super helpful because it's wonderful to get outside eyes on an inside problem, if that makes sense, that we sometimes that's all you need, right? And I always give students the example, right? Like I can tell my son the same thing 500 times, but since I'm dad, he's not always going to listen, right? Because I'm dad. As soon as grandpa or his teacher at school says something, of course, right? I'll do whatever. And having those people who are removed from the situation give outside opinions and outside guidance has been really helpful.
So wonderful. I love that perspective. And remember, for anybody listening, there's so many different communities to get involved in the Teach Better family. Adam, I'm thrilled that you chose to get involved in Mastermind. But if you are trying to find your spot in our Teach Better family, there are lots of opportunities, not only obviously as an active participant in daily drop-in for those of you who choose to tune in frequently, but also to join our blogging team or our podcasters row, or to be a part of our speakers network, or join the mastermind. There's a few different masterminds that aren't even just for our administrators. There's a lot of different opportunities there. I don't know. There's just so many different ways to get involved. So if you guys are looking for options, definitely head over to teachbetter.com and look at the What We Do tab and scroll and scroll and scroll. You'll find your community there. Adam, we have a bunch of different things that we like to do here on the show, but one of them, bright and early in the morning, is to document a moment of gratitude in an app we call Happy Feed. So if you were to think about this morning, something that you're really grateful for, what would we share?
So right now in our building, the principal and I'm the assistant principal, are running through some like staff feedback for the year that we're basically asking like, hey, how'd the year go? We know it was a super challenging year for everybody, across the country. What can we do better next year, right? What can we focus on next year? And I'm super grateful for the honesty and transparency I've gotten from the staff, because it would be super easy to walk into your boss's office and say, hey, everything's great. Everything's wonderful. I have no complaints. You're doing a great job. Right. But our staff has been very open about some of the issues that they're seeing, some of the things that they want us to focus on for next year, some of the things they want us to start doing, some of the things they want us to stop doing. And I understand that like clarity or that transparency can be challenging at times, that you don't necessarily want to tell the people who are in charge of you stink at your job, or, not that they're saying that, but like, it's not always the easiest thing to give open and honest feedback to people who are in charge of you. And then even in my role, my first year here, that can be challenging too. And I'm super grateful for that, because the phrase I've been saying over and over and over again this year with students and with staff is like, we can't fix problems we don't know about. So if we know about it, then we can come up with something for it. But if we don't know that there's a problem, or we don't understand the scope or the size of the problem, who the problem is impacting, then we can't fix it. So I'm very grateful for our staff for that.
Oh, I love that one. What a great reminder to continue to enter into our school buildings, not only with students, but with our colleagues, with our staff, to continue to think through how we can be honest and transparent so we can be better year over year over year. I love that. I love that approach, Adam. So helpful for this morning. We're going to transition here into our good news segment of the morning. I know we have a lot to get to, but we definitely have some holidays to celebrate and some good news articles. So we'll be right back. Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, April 6th. We have Adam with us this morning, and we have had some great dialogue thus far. Excited to get into some good news, get into our brainstorm bank, and then also end with recommendations since this is Wednesday. Adam, how do you feel about celebrating some goofy holidays?
For sure. Love it.
I love it. First and foremost, I need to know, and I know this is really early in the massive decision in your day.
Yeah.
But are you a cat person or a dog person?
So we have cats in our house. I would not classify myself as a cat person. I would classify my wife and my children as cat people. So we're cat people because my wife is and my kids are. But hey, they make those cats make my kids really, really happy. So I will happily keep them around.
Well, today might be a day to celebrate those cats because it is National Siamese Cat Day.
Oh, we have two Siamese cats. So that makes perfect. Yeah, we do. We have two Siamese cats.
Well, hey, first of all, those are gorgeous animals. I love Siamese cats. I think they're so pretty. But today is their day for sure. Then you might need to even leave school early to go celebrate this holiday. National Siamese Cat Day. So lots to celebrate there. If you are unfamiliar, if you're listening now and you're unfamiliar with what a Siamese cat looks like, definitely go Google them. They are gorgeous, gorgeous cats. I love that.
Yes,
I did have a cat at one point in my life. And while I have two dogs right now, I don't know. There is something very different about having a cat. I loved having a cat in the house. I'm not sure that I'll ever go back because I have too many. I have like two dogs too many currently in my house, but I do love a cat around. Like, they're good energy.
Yeah, I do appreciate that they're kind of low maintenance and don't have to watch them every second of the day. But also, I can't wait for my kids to be old enough to take care of them.
That's true.
Years.
Especially with the litter box. Yeah, it's really nice to have somebody else do that job. I will say here and there, our Teach Better internal team, we have a lot of cat people that people have, multiple cats. So okay, today we'll celebrate the cat. That'll be good to know. It's also other holidays that you guys might want to enjoy. It's National Student Athlete Day, which is kind of fun for those of you heading into the school building this morning. Why not recognize our incredible student athletes? It's also New Beer's Eve, which I'm not sure what that means. So maybe to try a new beer?
Maybe. I don't know. I've never heard of that one.
It says in 1933, the government ended the prohibition. So the date on April 7th meant that you should go grab a beer and toast.
Oh.
Why not? I love it. Today is also the Day of Hope. It's National Sorry Charlie Day, which is interesting. It's National Teflon Day. So, okay, why not go cook something up? It's also National Walking Day. Adam, do you think you'll get your steps in this morning?
Well, as I would say that depending on the day, I'm definitely getting my steps in, how much running around this building I have to do. But yeah, I think, not too many meetings. So I'm going to try to be present in lunches, present in bus supervision, those kinds of things. So I'll definitely get my 10,000.
Move around the building. No, gosh, 10,000. I wish I tracked my steps. I've been posting frequently on my own personal social media about how I got a treadmill that you just walk on.
Oh, yeah.
Working, which I know this isn't a new concept. People have treadmills all over their, for many, many years. But I find it fascinating how much work I can get done walking on the treadmill in the morning. So I don't know. I'm kind of a fan, but I'm not tracking my steps. I'm only tracking the distance.
Gotcha.
I think I need to do my steps. I think you're right.
Yeah. I definitely track the steps. I would love like a walking treadmill or standing desk, something like that. I think that would be great because it's easy to get out of my office and walk around and see the kids and see teachers and jump in classes, right? But also there's time where I need to like sit in the office and do work, and to get some extra steps during that time would be nice.
Maybe we just need to get you a rolling standing desk, like a little
Yes, I would love that.
and you can just roll around your school with.
Walk around the halls and just kind of have it going and be out there and get some work done. I love that.
I will say that sounds a little unsafe. Like you're going to have to work and walk and be looking around. At least on a treadmill, you can't run into anything.
Yes. Yeah. That might be a challenge during passing period for sure, or lunch supervision, but it would still be nice.
Oh, good. Everybody can get their steps in today. I love it. Lots to celebrate. Our good news article this morning, as many of you know, we love using a good news article to spark conversation, whether it be to foster a deeper relationship with a colleague or a staff member, or even to bring an element of our good news stories to foster discussion with our students. I thought this would be a really interesting one to bring to, a middle school, high school type student to discuss a number of different avenues. So Adam, I'd love to hear kind of your take on this good news article. It said video gamers are doing the world some good as Fortnite raises $144 million for Ukraine. So they're talking about how these game developers are looking for ways, obviously, to raise money. And then with Fortnite specifically, streaming all over the world, they've raised a growing $144 million in just 2 weeks.
Holy cow.
Yes, these are a variety of ages playing this game and, obviously being a part of the video game industry and raising that money. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think that's interesting. So I'm going to revert back to English teacher brain here for a second, but holy cow, what a fun article to read and story to read, and like ways you could bring that into like, how do the students view video games in their lives? How do the students like parents view video games in their lives? How often are we blaming video games for all the problems that kids can't pay attention, kids can't focus, kids can't read because all they do is play Fortnite or whatever, right? Like that. Obviously there's a community built there, and our students are getting some sense of community from that group. And not only is that just, it's fun to play Fortnite because Fortnite's fun, right? But they're finding ways to better the world. And I think that that's really interesting and could be fun conversations around like perspectives of the, communities that I'm going to talk like a 7th grade boy here for a second, but like nobody understands me. My parents don't get it, right? Like I love Fortnite and my parents think it's lame or think it's not fun or whatever. And there's a lot of positives that we can take from these kinds of things, right? That our students are finding all sorts of cool people around the world, right? That like when I was in junior high, I couldn't find people all over the country to help, all over the world, right? Like to help donate money to war relief efforts. And I think it's really important for us to honor that's our students' experiences, right? That's how they find community, how they find like-minded people, even though, people like me who are a little bit older, maybe not understand that in the same way.
Yeah, I think there's so much discussion here, and whether you choose to use this article in a few weeks when maybe you have an opening in your teaching schedule to kind of be able to foster this discussion, or maybe you spend like 5 to 8 minutes discussing it at the very beginning of class as you kind of get the students settled and get ready for the day. But I do think that there are so many different directions you could take this article, and I love the perspective of reflecting, of using something that is sometimes seen as a negative, right? Video games, it's so distracting, and actually looking at the impact on a student's life and what good could come of it. I think there's a whole discussion to be had there.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Like when as you were talking, I'm thinking like, holy cow, I would love to ask the question to like a group of freshmen in high school students, right? Like, what do your parents get wrong about Fortnite? Mm-hmm. Right. Give them that article and say, what do your parents have wrong about Fortnite? Or what do your parents have wrong about video games, or whatever it is, fill in the blank of the thing your parents don't understand. Holy cow, is that a way to build relationships, to like learn about your students, and then to get them? I always found that like emoting and getting some of that emotion out in their writing is a great way to get them going, because if you have an opinion on something, it's hard to hold that back, right? Yeah. And even if it's not Fortnite, if it's any other thing that parents don't understand, that's a great way to get kids reading, to get kids talking.
Oh, that would be such a good activity. If anybody uses that, you got to reach out to us. We want to hear, Adam, I love this like very, very tactical suggestion of, hey, can you go try this activity and see what comes of it? So I'm a huge fan. Speaking of tactical strategies that we definitely want to choose to implement in our day, we'll be right back with our Brainstorm Bank segment. Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, April 6th, and we've had some great dialogue thus far in our Brainstorm Bank. This is a specific time during every single show where we want to ask our community if they need anything. So if you have any questions on your mind, or if you want to ask a specific question to Adam, please just feel free to throw that in the chat. We'd love to be here to brainstorm with you. Adam and I don't promise that we will have all the answers, but we definitely want to make sure we can help and continue to discuss our theme for the week. Adam, as we were chatting before we went live, I know this theme this week was interesting to you because we were able to discuss how we can lower our stress level to increase our capacity. And I know that there were a lot of like kind of directions we could take this conversation. So when I say that we want to lower our stress to increase our capacity, what are your initial thoughts on that topic?
So I'm in a position right now where I'm in a leadership role, but I was in the teacher role for the last however long, 12, 14 years, whatever it was, right? So I know how much is on teachers' plates, right? And seemingly everything gets added and nothing ever gets taken off, right? Teaching is so much harder now than when I started teaching, however long ago. So one of the things that I've really thought about this year in my role is how can we limit the things, maybe not even limit, but how can we make more efficient the things that we're asking our teachers to do? How can we systematize all of our processes to make it so you do this, and then now it's off your plate. You don't have to worry about it. Get back to the teaching the kids in front of you. One of the focuses we've had in our building this year, and this is me personally being kind of a believer in this, like stop taking work home. And I know it's easy to say and hard to do, right? But if you're grading less, if you're assigning less, right? If you're making your assessments more meaningful, you don't have to take as many things home, right? Like kids don't have to be doing 30 problems of math homework every single night to learn to do the math, right? Because in what we know about homework, like there's a good chance that mom and dad are doing homework, or no one's doing homework, or tutor is doing homework, right? Like there are so many ways that we can lessen the amount of things that teachers need to focus on and really own the things that we care the most about, right? Like the word that I've used to describe this year is scattered, right? Like our focus, if I think about what classes and our processes for code, for masking, for contact tracing, for buses, for lunchroom looked like in August versus what they look like now, it's totally different, right? And we've had 22 different permutations, between August and now. So what I'm thinking about constantly is how can we make the things that really matter in our building, in your classroom, in your school, whatever, make those the things you care about every single day. Because if you care about it once a week or once a month, then you don't really care about it that much, right? And it's really hard to like even dig into getting better at it if you're only looking at it once a month, right? So how do we narrow that focus down to make it so our teachers, our students, our staff can really own the things that we think are most important, and everything else we'll try to take off their plate as much as we can, right? Like we can't take away some things, but we're going to try to make them as minimal as possible.
It's so interesting. I was listening live yesterday afternoon to Brad Hughes live with Tom Schimmer. And Tom Schimmer is a featured speaker. Oh my gosh, I'm such a fan. I say that all the time. And then it like occurs to me that there are people that haven't chosen to connect with him. And it like hurts me. Like friends, if you are listening right now, yes, if you're not connected to Tom Schimmer, you need to go connect with Tom. He's doing such incredible things. But Brad was live with Tom Schimmer yesterday afternoon. And something that Tom had noted when he was working with school districts all around the world was that, if he's engaging with a principal, if he's coming into a school and then doing that initial meeting with the principal, he's really adamant that he wants to know what the goals are and if the work is a top priority. I think something specifically he said was if it wasn't on their top 3, then he doesn't feel like it's worth his time coming out. Like the work that they're doing needs to be so high on the list, because essentially after the top 3 focuses, everything else you can't put that much focus on because there's only so much time in the day. So very similar to kind of what you were sharing so far is thinking through what are the major priorities that we need to focus on, and we really need to make them priorities if we want to see change.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Like the more you do, the less you do well, right? Is kind of how I think about that, right? That if my focus is split across 10 different things, then I've got 10 things that I'm probably just doing okay or not very well at all. But if I can hone into 2 to 3 things that, hey, this is what we are going to own this year, this is what we're going to own every single day, then I can probably get better at it, right? I can probably get feedback. I can probably self-reflect. I can probably like figure out what my success criteria are and then adjust my plan as needed. And then one of the other things that I think has really struck me this year is like, it's great to have 2 or 3 things, but if people don't think they're important or don't care about them, then they're not really important, right? Like if our staff, if our building doesn't care about it, if your students don't care about it, right? Like I always think of teachers like, oh, my kids just, they won't do the work. Well, do they see value in the work? Like how are they being engaged in knowing what the work is? Why is this worth learning? Why is this worth my time? I always come back to Daniel Pink and Drive and everything we know about motivation, right? Like autonomy, mastery, purpose. If you don't see purpose in the work, then why is it worth your time? And it's not. So I think that would be a thing if you are looking to like narrow down, right? If I'm thinking as a classroom teacher of how do I really own the things that matter the most to me, they better matter to the kids too, or you better be really good at like telling the kids why they matter, right? Like this is why this is a skill worth learning, and then really own those things. That makes a lot of sense to me. But if we're trying to do 50 things and we're not doing any of it.
No, I love that. And I love the freedom to reiterate that why as frequently as you need. It's not just an opportunity to say, ooh, right off the bat, I'm going to explain it to students and they'll retain that information. But is there a way that you can revisit that why frequently as you get started every single day or, you know, a few times a month, just to ensure that you're constantly revisiting that why? I know as leadership, we have to do that all the time with our teams to make sure that we're reinforcing the why behind taking the time and energy to focus on this. Yeah. I mean, even Adam, as we get started in this segment for Brainstorm Bank, reiterating every morning, hey friends, we care about you. We don't want you to brainstorm on your own. Choose to utilize this community when you need it to brainstorm with you. It's further explaining, even though we do this segment every single morning, it's a great opportunity to say, hey, just to check, this is how we want you to choose to engage because we're trying to offer an opportunity that we know is valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. What was I just thinking? And I think that the more we can do to continue to explain that why, right? That was the thing that you just said that struck with me, right? Like I was self-reflecting, like my why this year has been just making sure every kid in our building feels safe and cared for, right? That's been number one all year long, safe and cared for. That every decision we are making goes to that, right? Like if it's a discipline decision, are people safe? Is it safe? You know, were you putting yourself in a safe situation? Were you making safe choices, right? And then afterwards, that restorative piece, like how do we make them feel cared for? Same kind of thing in a classroom, same kind of thing in a building. Why are we doing the thing? Why is this worth it? And then continue to coming back to the why. And if your why is not strong enough, then you got to reevaluate, right? Like if it's not worth doing, if the why isn't powerful, then we got to reevaluate. And that's okay, right? Like your why might change, or, you know, what you thought was why might not be the same from August to April. And there's nothing wrong with that either, right? Like then adjust, get better.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's important to realize that there's a lot of layers to a concept that you might want to be instilling in either your staff or your students or anything in between. So as you revisit that why and really dig down to the core issue, then you can be as consistent as possible. I love this reminder this morning. You know, if we have someone just tuning in right now, maybe for the first time, learning about you, hearing about your passion for identifying the why, what would be kind of your soapbox message, something you really want to ensure that people are able to take away this morning?
So I already mentioned Daniel Pink's Drive, which I love so much, but I so much of my understanding of being a leader, of being a teacher, you know, I used to be a football coach. I used to be an instructional coach, right? Like so much of that is autonomy, mastery, purpose, right? That we can trick kids and staff into doing some stuff, right? There's lots of ways you can trick people into those things, but if we want them to buy in, if we want them to be empowered, if we want them to be engaged, like true, authentic engagement, they have to see purpose. they have to see reason why. They have to understand, why is this worth my time? And I think teachers have it tougher now than ever before, right? Because I have a cell phone right next to me that is a super fun why, right? There's so much social interaction. There's so much, like, there's so many dopamine hits I can get off that cell phone in 25 seconds, right? So I've got to have a really powerful why for what we're doing in our class, other than it's for a grade, it's on the test, right? Because you have to pass the class, right? Like, kids will play that game, but is that where we want to be? We want to be living in the empowerment, right? Like the choice, you get to decide how you learn this thing. You get to decide how you demonstrate your learning of this thing. You get to decide what you're learning and how you're learning it, right? Like, the more we can do those kinds of things, the more successes we'll see, right? Because I always come back to, like, the people doing the talking in a classroom are doing the thinking, right? That if they are talking about the things that they care about, if they are talking about the things that are interesting to them, then I know who's doing the learning, right? Then I know who's doing the thinking. And that's really hard. It's hard for teachers to make that shift sometimes. It's hard for kids to make that shift sometimes, right? Because sometimes our kids are used to, Mr. Lester, I'm just going to sit here and you're going to talk for 41 minutes and then class is going to be over and I'm going to go sit to the next class and talk for 40, right? Like, some of our kids are used to that and have to learn how to engage in their process more. And we have to give them those opportunities. And the challenging part is you can't do it once. You got to do it a bunch. And the first time's not going to be great. And the second time might be slightly better, right? And we just keep getting better every time. And give our kids a chance to reflect, give our kids a chance to understand what worked and what didn't. I think that would be my biggest push, or just like reason why, is like, let our staff own the work, right? That they need to own the work. Otherwise we're just doing stuff. And that's not where we want to spend our time, at least not where I want to spend my time.
No, I think that is such a valuable reflective point for this morning. I know there's so many different directions to be able to take a challenge, but if you were to challenge our community to go do something this morning, as we kind of wrap up our brainstorm bank and head into our recommendations that we have, which we love being able to do on Wednesday, is there anything that we can challenge our community to do to be better in this area?
Yeah. Ask your people. So if you're a classroom teacher, ask your students, what's going well, what's not going well, what do you need more of, what do you need less of, right? If you're a leader, ask your staff, what do you need more of, what do you need less of? How can I be doing my job differently? How can I be supporting you differently, right? Like, if you're not asking for feedback all the time, I don't know how you're ever really improving in your job, right? And sometimes feedback's hard to hear, right? Sometimes feedback is not super pleasant. There are times where, like, yeah, you handled that and it sucked. It was really bad, right? I had that conversation with a teacher yesterday who basically said, hey, you blew this first semester. I'm like, you're right, I probably did, because I'm still figuring it out, right? But ask for that feedback, right? Whether that's individual, just kind of like one-on-one, whether that's like, and I'm thinking classroom level, right? Like, maybe that's just a Google form at the end of the week where, like, hey, what did I do well? What did I not do well? What's a kid going to say to you if I say, hey, I really would love you to fill out this Google form so I can teach you better, so I can be better at my job? Nope, Mr. Lester, I'm not going to do that. I want you to continue to be a bad teacher. No, kids are going to tell you, right? Like, and that's the most interesting thing to me, is that most of our kids know what really good teaching looks like, because they see it all day long. And then they see not so good teaching, right? So, and they know what works for them. They know what doesn't work for them. And if you ask them, they'll probably tell you. So that would be my like push, is ask for feedback from the people you're interacting with the most, so you can find ways to improve.
I really appreciate that you've taken this totally full circle, because as we were entering our moment of gratitude for Happy Feed, which we did, almost 20 or 30 minutes ago, we were documenting the value of people being transparent and honest and being able to give feedback so we can improve year over year over year. And so I think this is so relevant that now an emphasis, 34 minutes in, saying, yes, how can we ask for feedback so we can improve day over day, hour by hour, week to week in our role, whether you're physically in the classroom, in the trenches, working with students, or in a coaching or leadership role, striving to support a staff. The only way to improve is to gain feedback, reflect, and continue to move forward a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Like, I don't know how else you do it otherwise. And in my opinion, once you start doing that, you can't stop. Yeah. Right. I'm thinking back to last year teaching my senior English classes, and like, Mr. Lester, you are Google forming us to death. Like, yep, sorry, kids, got to do it. Got to do it. I need to know. I need to know what I'm doing well. I need to know what's working, right? And that's the easy, at least for me, right, was the easiest, quickest, most efficient way. I got it all exported into a spreadsheet, right? And then I could figure out right away, what should I keep doing? What should I not be doing? And that worked really well for me, right? Like that's an easy exit ticket. It's an easy, 5-to-1 fingers if you're an elementary teacher, right? Like my kindergarten son's not filling out a Google form, but he'll give you thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle, right? Like all those kinds of things. Any of that is, and I feel like teachers often will say like, well, that's not data. Well, of course it's data, right? Of course that is data. That's anecdotal, like in the moment formative data for how instruction is going. Just because kids didn't fill out a multiple choice test or do a math problem doesn't make it not data.
Yes.
Right. And if that's informing our instruction, that's what we need to be doing.
So powerful. Great recommendations this morning. I love it. We're going to transition here into recommendations we love, which is a segment we only get to do on Wednesdays, but a very, very important time for us to strive to continue to be learners in this area. So we'll be right back. Everyone, we are so thrilled that you are still here joining us here Wednesday, April 6th, continuing this conversation about honest reflection, gathering feedback, continuously being better. I think this is a wonderful theme for this morning and a really, really good reminder for us as we head into, I'm sure, a very busy Wednesday. Let's be honest, in the middle of April. Adam, there are so many different things that we love to do, but one thing I really appreciate for Wednesdays is being able to recommend next steps and resources beyond just our dialogue to continue to be learners. So far in this conversation, we've touched on lowering our stress to increase our capacity. We referenced the importance of feedback. We referenced the importance of discussion and building relationships. I think there's a lot of different recommendations we can give today, but if you were to provide us with kind of like a tool or resource that you constantly go back to get us started, whether it be, a book, a podcast, I don't know, a YouTube clip. Is there anything that kind of comes to mind?
For sure. I have exactly the one that has really helped me the most, and it's the book Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Oh my gosh, everybody talks about this book.
Rae, it's incredible.
Yeah,
it's
I need
wonderful.
to read it. It's been recommended to me 100 times.
I bought it for my principal and our lead sped teacher for around Christmas. And it is, I don't know, I'm on my 4th time reading it, 5th time reading it, right? Like, and I think about like everything you've said about increasing capacity to lower stress, right? Mm-hmm. How do we remove barriers to the things that we want to do, right? So the simple thing that most people want help with, right, is like working out, eating better, being healthy, right? And here's the simple thing that I've done, like that gets me to the gym every morning. As soon as I get home from work, and this is a straight steal from Atomic Habits. This is not a thing I came up with. Like, this is total stolen.
Yeah.
As soon as I come home, right, I walk in the door, I go change into the workout clothes I'm going to wear the next day, and I pack my bag for the morning, right? Mm-hmm. It takes me 10 minutes, right, from 4:15 to 4:25, right? Mm-hmm. Pack my bag in the morning, drop it off, right? And that is just what I do. So when I wake up in the morning at 4 whatever, 5 whatever, and I want to go to the gym, well, you know what? I'm already wearing the clothes. Bag's already packed. Don't have to worry about any of those things, right? Like all of those things are already done. They're out of my way, right? That willpower it's a muscle, right? Like as the day goes on, you have less and less of it, right? That's why everybody like, hey, ate a really good breakfast, ate a really good lunch, ate a whole thing of Oreos at night, right? All those kinds of things that if you can limit how often you have to use willpower, if you can habitualize all those other things that are challenging for you, it makes your life way, way, way easier. And one of the other things that I love about that book so much is this analogy that I use all the time with students, with staff, and it's the plateau of latent potential. The thing that really, the analogy that really matters is if Rae, if I put you in a room and the room is 25 degrees and I said, Rae, there's a ice cube in the middle of the room and I need you to melt the ice cube, right? You would have to do a lot of work starting fires or running around or whatever, right, to raise the temperature of the room. And you would raise the temperature of the room from 25 degrees to 26 degrees and 26 degrees to 27 degrees and 27 degrees to 28 degrees. And you'd be thinking, holy cow, I'm doing so much work and nothing's happening, right? And then you'd raise it from 28 degrees to 29 degrees and then 29 degrees to 30 degrees and 30 degrees to 31 degrees. You're like, man, I am done with this. This stinks. And then you raise it from 31 to 32 degrees, and that ice cube would start melting. And the 31 to 32 degrees is the exact same temperature increase, right, as everything else you've done up to that point. You just didn't know when that breaking point was coming, right? And that's the thing that I always kind of come back to is, man, I'm putting in all this work. I'm doing all these things, and I'm just not seeing those outcomes. I'm not seeing those outcomes, or I'm not seeing the outcomes as fast as I want, or I'm not seeing the outcomes like the level I want, or in the way that I want. Well, you know what? I might not just be at 32 degrees yet, right? Like I might not have hit that plateau of latent potential. And that's like the dorky name for it, right? But I always think of it as the ice cube. But I cannot recommend that book highly enough. It's so good. And it's super practical too, that there are so many resources of like, how do you cue up a habit? How do you reinforce a habit? How do you make sure that you are giving yourself the things you need for that habit to stick? And then it still goes back to all that reflection piece, right? That, hey, you know what, this version of this habit didn't work, so I better try a different version of that habit. But I cannot recommend that book highly enough.
I love incorporating resources into my life that are either very directly related to education or completely not related to education, because I can always find the intersection, the overlap, right? If I'm doing personal growth and I'm striving to improve myself, there's so many different ways that can blend into also being a better educator, right? Also, getting more information to better serve our community. And on the flip side, if I'm reading an education book, there's so many different ways that can improve me personally as a human. So I really appreciate the recommendation. I know that's not a specific teacher book, but I can tell you, I feel like every single person is reading this book right now. I need to go and explore further.
It's really good. Like I said, I'm on time 3 or 4 through it. And, you know, just like anything else you reread, right? Like what I really honed in on the first time might not be what I'm honing in on this time, right? Because I'm in a different spot. I understand things differently, right? Like every time I'm pulling something else that makes, you know, that helps me in a different way that I just wasn't ready to listen to or receive the prior time, right? Or it wasn't important to me in the prior time.
So important. We would love to hear all of you from you. If you are reading that book, or if you're reading a book that you definitely would recommend to others, please just continue to share it out, whether it be in the comments as we're live for the Daily Drop-In every morning, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern, or maybe choose to direct message Adam or I. We'd love to hear about what resource you are engaging with that you feel like is really improving your practice. Adam, before we end today, do you want to make sure that our community gets an opportunity to learn from you, continue to connect with you, add you to our PLN? I know you are active on social media. Maybe your social media handle would be a good direction, but also, of course, if they want to engage with you in our admin mastermind and they currently serve in a leadership role, they can head over to teachbetter.com/mastermind to get that weekly link. Tell us a little bit about how we can stay connected to you.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Adam Lester AP. That's probably my main social media. I feel like that's where I'm doing most of my learning from other educators and connecting with other educators, and then also following fantasy football because that's what I like, right? But I cannot recommend enough any of the mastermind or teach better things. That hearing from people who are doing it is helping me the most, right? Like to Ray's point, I love that word you used earlier, tactical. That I am always thinking about what can I, and this was me as a teacher, this is me now as a leader, right? Like, what can I do tomorrow? What can I take from this learning that I'm doing right now and implement tomorrow or next week or the next time that I need to do this thing, right? Philosophy is wonderful. And it's really important to learn the philosophy and that why behind, right? But once I'm bought in on the why behind, I need to know the how. And that's been super useful to me from all the Teach Better stuff, is like, how do I do the things that I need to do? And then how can I do them differently or better the next time that I need to do them? I'm doing a lot of my role this year is working with the ELA teams across our district, across the 5 junior highs, from like a curriculum perspective. And every time me and the instructional coach have kind of run PD, it's looked a little bit different, right? Because we're trying to figure out who our group is, who are, what are the needs of the people in front of us. And every time that's shifting a little bit. And that's been super helpful to me to think about those things. We talked about it in Mastermind yesterday of like, how do we gain feedback and do it quickly and cheaply, where we also give some teachers time to just work with the people they need to work with, because time's sacred, right? Like, it's not very often you're getting an hour uninterrupted to work with someone who teaches the same class as you. So connect with me on Twitter at Adam Lester AP. DMs are open, right? Like I will happily help with anything that I might be able to help with, right? Like I was an English teacher for a long time, and some of the English teachers in my building right now are like, you didn't take work home? No, I did not take work home for the last 10 years of my job. I would spend maybe one day a semester at school grading, one from 4 to 7 or whatever, but I didn't take work home because you don't have to. And I truly, truly, truly believe that if you can get really good and tight with assessments and the way you assess and the way you grade, you don't have to take work home. And if you want to learn or talk more about that, that would be my best recommendation, because holy cow, what a way to lessen stress if you get to go home and be home instead of go home and do work. Right?
Yeah.
I don't like going home and grading essays. Nobody likes that. So don't do that. So find different ways to assess, right? Holy cow, why does it have to be an essay? Why can't it be a kid talking about something?
There are so many different directions we could take this conversation. I feel like, Adam, you and I could talk for ages, because I couldn't agree more with your mindset on this, but I am excited for our network to choose to reach out to you to learn more and have this discussion at a deeper level. So Adam, I really appreciate you waking up bright and early for the Daily Drop-In Morning Show, sharing your insight, providing us so many different recommendations for action steps we can take, including resources we can go search out. So I really, really appreciate it.
This was a blast. I've had a really good time, and all the things you all are doing at Teach Better is needed. And thank you.
So appreciate it, Adam. Thank you for being so active in our community. For everybody else, it is Wednesday, April 6th, and we wish you nothing but an absolutely wonderful Wednesday. Please let us know, of course, if you need anything, reach out to Adam, of course, if you want to continue your learning in this area. And we hope to see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, for Daily Drop-In. Also, don't forget, of course, it's Wednesday. We also have our brain break happening this afternoon, which is a time we really want to encourage all of you to take some time away from education, relax, play a few games, and have a wonderful time as the middle of our week is here and is soon approaching. So we will hope to see you later on. And thank you for all that you do, friends. Thanks, Adam. We'll see you later.
Thanks, everyone. See you.